On Monday, April 28th, Canadians will vote in the federal election to determine who will be the next head of government. In almost all major news media, the information surrounds the Liberal, Mark Carney, and the Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, mainly because these two parties have the most seats in Parliament. Included in the Liberal and Conservative parties, there are other few parties that are running as well: the Bloc Québécois, the New Democratic Party, and the Green Party of Canada. If you're like me, you start to see a trend in Canadian history where it's yin or yang. This year it's either the Conservatives that are leading it, or next year it's back to being the Liberals. And at the end of the day, for myself that is, I am really tired of having to have someone tell me what it is that they intend to do within the next 4 years and never actually following through with it. You see, the people of Canada, the people of this country needs a party that is going to focus on them, the people. That's simple. We need people in power, people in Parliament that are going to be able to look at things and make it make sense. And I think in order for us to do a lot of things, we need to go way back to assess when life was good and to see what was being done then, and to come back to the future and implement what needs to be done. For example, the retirement age in Canada shouldn't be 65, it should be 55. I have seen so many of my friends and families that have only made it to that 65-year mark, only to realize that they can't retire because there's not enough money in it to do just that. Instead, they're having to work until they get to the end and you find out that they're no longer with us in this world. So that's one. We need to change the retirement age to 55. Number two, as Canadians, we work so hard and so long to be able to afford our homes. It's not easy to come up with the mortgage payments every month or every week, 2 weeks or weekly, depending on what it is. But it's not easy. And to see that you work tirelessly every day to do just that, and still at the end of it all, when you're in your retirement, you're still having to pay property taxes, you still have to pay your utilities. These things need a shift. If you're 55 or older, you should not be having to pay property taxes. You really shouldn't. You've earned it. You have done your best and all that you could for this country. And so that needs to be changed. People need to be allowed to remain in their homes that they worked so hard for their whole lives, because they have earned the peace of mind. You see, the next thing on my list is free healthcare. Can we afford it? Heck yes, we can. We can definitely afford it. You see, money is a tool, but in Parliament, I think it's looked at as something different. It's looked at as a way of making the rich richer and the poor poorer. But again, you need a party that's focused on the people. You need a representative that is going to look for the people, because that's who is these are the very people that are making things happen today. I take a step back and I look at the fact that we have the merger between Canada and the US, and the fact that we're now having this trade dispute that's going back and forth, and a lot of our Canadian people are getting so involved that they're afraid to travel across the border. You see, what we fail to realize is that this is just a ploy. The actual government of this country has been taking taxes from us for so long, and we haven't fought over it. We haven't yelled or screamed or done any of this media influence that's going on around. But the minute somebody else does it, we're all at war. And we need to take our blinders off, focus, and see who's actually shaking the jar to start the war. It really is that simple. So we need free healthcare, no exemptions, as there are people in our lives that need real healthcare, and that goes for dental care, that goes for foot care, that goes for people with cancer. There's absolutely no reason that there should be any form of disease that is out there that we should not be covering under the Canadian Healthcare Act. We need to reduce prices, not just fix them or say we're going to freeze them. Like, honestly, bread, $3.99 a loaf, that's out of this world. It's ridiculous. I come from an age where you could buy your bread for 50 cents and toss it under your armpit and walk home with it, for crying out loud. This is just outrageous. We need to reduce prices of groceries, prices of clothing, prices of gas, building materials. We have our homes that we need to upkeep and keep them going. We can't afford going into Home Depot. We can't do a lot of things to maintain and build or try to renovate our houses. We can't, because the prices are at this world. It no longer takes a mom and dad to run a household. It now takes a mom that has a job, a dad that has a job, and 2 children that also have to work just so people can be comfortable. Is that right? Absolutely not. I remember a time when I could go out and pick up some steaks, take my barbecue from the backyard, put it on the front yard, and make a barbecue and have the whole neighborhood come in and have some food. Now you can't do that because you can't even afford steaks for yourself, let alone for someone else. So prices need to be reduced. People's wages need to stay exactly where they're at, but prices need to be reduced. You see, when was the last time any of us truly felt happy? We wake up every morning, we get dressed, we get behind the wheel of our cars, we don't even have breakfast most of the time, and we go off to work. Half the time, most of these people are so bloody tired that they get into major accidents simply because they're not having to do one job. They're having to do 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, and that's not right. That's why we're going to see a big decline in a lot of things. If we do not reduce the cost of these things, then what is going to happen is that people will start figuring out different ways. I walked into a gas station that I normally go to, and I realized that now you've got to prepay for everything. And I asked my buddy who works there, why is that? And they're saying because the price of gas was so high, people were filling up and leaving without paying. Now, that's where this country has pushed a lot of people. That needs to change. If I were in Parliament, I definitely would make a big difference on making sure that the people's voice is heard. I'm not saying that every single matter would be dealt with right away, but certainly we would all be able to stand back and see results because the major things would be done. I look at countries like Sweden and places like Scandinavia and wondering, why is it that things are so much better in that country? It doesn't mean we need to move there because it's better there. We need to learn that the grass, even though it may seem greener on the other side, doesn't mean that we have to jump ship. What we need to do is acquire the knowledge that is being implemented there and bring it back to our own property and implement it there so our grass can be greener. Canada can be better. Canada can be greener. Yes, we are known as the Great North, but we should be known as the Great Green North, because people who will come here will will realize that they're amongst friends, that they are in an environment that they're protected, that people here, you can generally eat and enjoy life and live life and within freedom. Happiness is one of those things that I would strive for people. Honestly, when we look at life, it's so short. It really is. And a lot of the frustrations and the mental breakdowns and people stealing or robbery or all these things can be stopped or at least slowed down if we decide to implement positive change. We need to realize that when our bills come in, what a good feeling it would be to know that you have the money to pay it and not have to worry. You see, this cycle, if we continue with the Liberals and the Conservative, it's going to be never ending. What these two parties and other parties that are running need to do is to go back to the drawing board and remember, why is it that we are a country? Because of our people. Make the people happy and you will see results. That's my motto. The government has the funds and the resources to make things happen. All they need to do is to restructure and implement the change. Allow people to farm on their lands. Back in the days, 16 years ago when I first moved to this house, I had chickens. I could get 7, 8 eggs a day. And then the city came in and said, no, it's a bylaw that you now need to have 5 acres or more in order to have chickens. Are you kidding me? Now, look at the price of eggs in the US. Look at the price of eggs in the stores in Canada. It needs to change. If we're allowed to use the resources that we have, it will make things a lot better. People would wash their laundry and hang it out on the line to dry. Now we're told no, because it's not in code with neighborhoods. We need to make sure that we dry them indoors. It makes absolutely no sense. Mother Nature is here for a reason, and we need to use not just what resources that they want us to use, but use all the resources that it gives. We don't just need to plant gardens and have beautiful flowers. We need to have our peas, our carrots, our cucumbers, I tried planting a banana tree, but it didn't work. But so many other things that we can plant during the summer months. Potatoes, our own potatoes, and put them in the cold storage for us to be able to use during the winter. Anything that we can do to help our people to be able to sustain their future is important. When it comes, don't even get me started on this one, education. Education is key. Why are we paying so much for our children to go to universities and colleges when at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be behind the scenes saving our lives? We have the resources and the power to ensure Canadians go to school for free. We really do. Yes, they may need to work to afford books and all the other resources that they may need to sustain them, but there's no reason why our children need to have to pay tuition fees. If they're going abroad for schooling, that's fine, a different country. If another country is coming in to study as an international student, absolutely they should be charged. But if you're Canadian and you live here, you have your landed status or your citizenship, or you were born here in this country, you should have free education. You see, the future can be done right if we only make a few tweaks right now. We need to learn to depend on our country, to depend on each other. if you're like me, I'm tired of voting this 4 years Liberal, next 4 years Conservative. I want to give someone else a chance to churn the wheel, because so far I haven't made butter. So this year, and believe me, this party is not endorsing this year I've chosen to vote for the Green Party. They do not have a lot of seats in Parliament, so more than likely they will not become Prime Minister. But give these people the chance to have their voice. If you've churned one way and you've seen no results, churn the other way. Give anyone else for that matter the chance to have a seat and to be able to make a ruling as Prime Minister, as the leader of this country. If you see that they have not followed through with their promise, choose someone else. But in the interim, I guarantee you, it'll give the other two parties that are always at the top of the voters list, Liberal and Conservative, the chance to go back to the drawing board and revisit the things that they need to look at. If it were me, I'd definitely have a People's Party of Canada, and our colour would be yellow because that's my favourite colour. Yellow and green, because for this year, I've started off my year with green, and for some reason I'm sticking with it. So if you're like me and you want to see change, vote for the Green Party. Give someone else a chance. Because right now, what we're having, what we're getting, is not working, guys. It really isn't. I hope that this message meets and greets the ones that need it the most. We'll talk again soon. Bye for now.